Hello and welcome to today's live lesson with me, Mr. R, and welcome to AM Language, where we will have our live lesson on modal verbs of deduction. 1 second. Okay, so it's 4 o'clock in Malta. And wherever you are in the world, welcome. And welcome to AM Language. So if this is your first time joining the live lesson, go ahead, like and subscribe to the channel so you never miss one of our daily live videos. And that's the important thing. These lessons are, they happen daily, Monday to Friday at 4 o'clock Maltese time. Irina F., good afternoon. Welcome to today's lesson and thank you very much for joining. So like I said, guys, today we are going to be looking at modal verbs of deduction. And the great thing about modal verbs of deduction is that this is the type of language you guys can learn that can help you understand what you're looking at. It's really good for problem solving, and that's the actual thing. This is all about problem solving. Alida says, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Alida. Buenos dias from where you are. Welcome to today's lesson. I hope you have had a good morning. If you have had a lesson this morning, I hope you had a good lesson. I hope it went well. And Evelina, good afternoon. Happy Monday indeed. Welcome to today's lesson. Buono pomeriggio. Just need some water. So yeah, modal verbs of deduction. That is exactly what we are going to be looking at today. And like I said, it's really good for solving, for problem solving, which we will get into shortly. If you're joining us later, please fast forward the first 5 minutes. It usually takes us about 5 minutes before we can really get into things, typically speaking. So, if join us in about, just fast forward the first 5 minutes. That is what I would recommend. Let me know who else is watching. And let me know what's happening where you are. What sort of weather? I know in Malta at the moment, there's the threat of the first rains following summer, and obviously the weather is a little bit cooler than before. I myself, where I am in the world at the moment, I am in I'm in a wet place at the moment where I am. Okay, so just to get started, guys, we're talking about modal verbs. So just go ahead. I'm going to write one modal verb. I invite you guys to also write a modal verb as well, just to make sure we all know what we're talking about when it comes to modal verbs. So I will start us off with the word must. Come in and let me know other modal verbs as well. So it just confirms that we all know what we are talking about when it comes to modal verbs. Alida says might. Yes, excellent. That's a good one. Let's see if we can get any more. Should as well. Yes, thank you very much, Alida. So we're off to a good start. We've got must, we've got might, we've got should. I'm going to come in with another one with could. And we are going to have a look at, we're going to first divide them into different categories of modal verbs. And then we're going to look to see how we can use this type of language when it comes to problem solving, which can be difficult. It can sometimes be a little bit difficult to know which modal verb we need to use as well. So that is definitely something that we will look at. So let's get into it. So we've got might, we've got may, Sandra says, good afternoon, Richard. Good afternoon, Sandra. Guten Tag, should I say. So we've got might, we've got may, so far we've got must, might, should, could, may. Don't forget the negatives. We've got can't, and we've got won't as well. So that's the sort of thing we are looking at. We are looking at those types of modal verbs. So the next thing we need to know is which ones are possibilities and which ones are probabilities, and then which ones are certainties. So, possibilities. Let's begin. Let's see what you guys come out with. I just want to see what you guys go with here. So first of all, we're going to talk about with possibilities. When it comes to possibilities, we could use a modal verb like could. Let me know in the live chat section what other modal verbs you think come under the term possibilities. We've got different categories here. So we've got possibilities, we've then got probabilities, and then we've got certainty. So we need to first make sure that we get the correct modal verbs under the correct one. So we've got the title possibilities, we've got a word like could, might, yes, might certainly goes there, and we've also got maybe as well. If anyone can think of any others, feel free to come in. We then need to remember about probabilities. Now, probabilities are stronger. Possibilities are always, they're around the 50% mark. So our leader says, might and may are exactly the same. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. Usually speaking, if you're going at 40%, you might go with might. If you're going at maybe 50%, you might go with maybe. That is a very slight difference, if I'm being totally honest with you. Sometimes they can be, 100% the same. But sometimes we might say maybe is maybe the slightly stronger one of the two. Right. So let's go for the next one here. And this time we're going to go with probability. Probability is usually when we start looking at about 70%. Typically speaking, it's 70%. So I'm going to start off with one, and I'm going to go with should. Should is going to be a probability. It's not a possibility, it's a probability. It's usually about 70%. The other probable one, and this is, it depends how strong we go with it. We can put something like would in here as well. Would come under probability. The reason why it's going to come under probability is that we usually use it when we are maybe speaking hypothetically, for example, but it's important to use it correctly. So we've got should and we've got would. That's your probability. Then let's think of certainty. Now, I'm going to give you guys the option. I'm going to write one type of certainty, and then I would like you guys to come in with other ideas of ones that could be certainty. Alida off the mark already. Thank you very much. Yeah, we've got must. Must is a good one. I'm going to put in can't. Sergio, good afternoon. Welcome to today's lesson. Obrigado. So you've gone for have to and must. Yes, those are definitely certain. I've gone with can't. There's another one as well that we can probably use. I'll see if anyone can think of it. If not, then I will put it in. But this is where we're talking about, typically speaking, anything between 90 and 100%. We're talking about something that's certain. We are certain of the situation, of the outcome. So the last one that I was thinking of over here is going to be won't. Okay. So let's just go through and we can just put, I'm going to use an example sentence, and this way we are going to just see what we're talking about. So Let's start off with a simple example, okay? You see an accident, okay, and a car, let's say two cars have crashed, okay? So the situation, for instance, the situation is that there are two cars that have crashed, okay? So we start off with possibilities, okay? So if you want to use a possibility, we would go with something like the driver in the red car might have fallen asleep, for example, might have fallen asleep. Question. What have I done here? The driver in the red car might have fallen asleep. When I'm talking about a past event, I'm going to use, in this case, I've gone with a present perfect, okay? So I've got my modal verb, okay, plus present perfect. And I'm using this to talk about the past. In this case, it's a possible past, okay? So I would like you guys to now write your own sentence, and I would like you to use the modal verb. You can use could, for example. So can you try and write your own sentence using could? Don't forget, you need to use could, and then you need to use the present perfect. You can simply change the sentence. You can change might for could, and that would work. Okay, so that's what you need to do. You've got your modal verb, then your present perfect. Stefano says, good afternoon, everyone. Buono pomeriggio, Stefano. Welcome to today's lesson. Thank you for joining. Okay, so let's go with this. Sandra says she could have taken the wrong bus. Okay, yep, that's another example. It's not with the context, but that is the correct type of language. You've gone for the modal verb plus present perfect. And this is really important. When you're talking about this sort of thing, you need to use that. We're using the present perfect now to talk about what we think might have happened in the past. Alida's gone with the street could have been slippery. Very good sentence. Well done. I really like that. So let's move on now to probability, okay? Such as the driver in the red car should have, and this is an important word here, indicated. What are we talking about here? Should have. First of all, indicate. Indicate is when you're driving, you've got an indicating button, a light, a yellow light that flashes. And you would put on your indicator if you're going to turn right, and you put on your indicator if you're going to turn left. It's the yellow light, and it makes, sometimes in some cars, it'll make a little noise as well. Okay, so when you signal to go right or left, you will put on your indicator. But what does this mean if we use should have indicated? Does this mean A, person in the red car did not indicate and therefore caused the accident? Or does it mean B, person in the red car indicated and caused the accident? So those are the two options. Do you think sorry, do we think this is meaning A or meaning B? Sergio's gone with meaning A. Okay, and Alida agrees it's meaning A. Good, that's exactly it. And that's when we're going to use should. There's something not quite right, and we're saying, well, the person in the red car should have done this. Again, this time we're talking about probability. Let's go I'm now going to write an incomplete sentence, and I would like you to choose between should and would. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Well done, Arena. FA. So should versus would. This time we're thinking about this. Now, he something have crashed if he didn't break. Now, we've got the if here, so we think it's probably hypothetical. A lead has gone straight away with would, classic conditional, and saying he would have crashed if he didn't break. If we are using would, okay, if we are using would, does this mean he crashed or didn't crash? Okay, so that's the next question. So a leader is right. In this case, it's would. He would have crashed if he didn't brake. If we are using would, does this mean he crashed or didn't crash? Sergio, you are also correct. Alida says didn't crash. Sergio says, yeah, I'm late, KK. I'm late. Oh, don't worry, Sergio. That's fine. Thank you for joining. Okay, excellent. Yes, it means he didn't crash. Stefano says, yes, it didn't happen. Good. So we can see the difference between should and would in this case. Let's do one more. So let's look at this one. What do you think? Should or would? I just want to double check. Something have looked before crossing the road. The situation here is that he was hit by a car. A leader says should. Do you guys agree with the leader? Is this should or do you think would be the better option? Let's see what you guys go for. Stefano says if it didn't crashed, you would say it didn't crash. It didn't crash. You're talking about the one before. That would be okay. Yes, that would be fine. That's correct. Yes. If we're using would, then no, he didn't crash. Stefano says yes, didn't crash. Okay, so that's for the question before. What about this next one? Should, says Sandra. Excellent. Well done, guys. We've understood it. So now let's go with the next one. Certainty. So, okay. So I'm just going to show you this sentence here. We're first going to look at the meaning, and then we'll look at trying to develop this one ourselves. This is kind of like a murder mystery one. So he couldn't have done it because he was at the shop, which means it must have been John. Now, this is a classic modal verb of deduction, trying to solve a problem, trying to solve a crime. In this case, what does this mean? Does it mean, Stefano says it crashed this time? If you're talking about the previous one with should, then yes, there was a crash and someone got hit by a car. So this one here, A. So he couldn't have done it because he was at the shop, which means it must have been John. Does this mean A? John committed the murder or the crime because we know the other person was not at the crime scene, was not at the location at the time. Or does it mean B? John did not commit the crime. What's happened here? John is not guilty. Let's play this up later. He's not guilty because other person did the crime. Let's go with committed. Okay. So is it A or B for this one? A or B? Alida thinks it's A. So Sergio also agrees. Well done. Excellent. Good. Well done. Okay. So let's go with this next one. I'm now going to write an incomplete sentence, and you need to choose between couldn't. Actually, you need to choose between can't, must, and won't. Okay, so this is what you guys need to do for the next one. Let's see what you write. We're going for certainty here. So you have to use all three. Let's see what you go for. So John, in the previous one, John can't be guilty. Let's see, John committed the crime because, okay, so let's see. In the previous one, Stefano, he couldn't have done it because he was at the shop, which means it must have been John. No, actually, Stefano. In the previous one, John is the guilty one, not innocent, because here we don't know who the first person is, but we know that they're saying it must have been John. So if you see the sentence, it must have been John, we're saying that John is guilty, or we think John is guilty. So Alida says can't, won't, must. So she is saying, so Alida is saying, sorry, Alida is saying it can't have been Kate because she won't ever swim at night. Therefore, it must be either John or Anna. It must be either John or Anna. We can change that to it must have been either John or Anna as well. Sergio has gone for the same thing. Can't, won't, must. Okay, good, excellent. Yeah, that is the correct answer. Good. So we've now looked at that one as well. So we've each time here we've had a look at modal verbs of deduction. We've looked at it modal verb plus present perfect. Here we can also see you can do modal verb plus present simple, and we've looked at possibility, probability, and then certainty. I'm now going to write some sentences, and it's up to you guys to try and choose the correct one, okay? The correct sentence. So let's see how you guys get on. Right, let's go with Stefano says can't, won't, must. Excellent. Well done. So let's look at the first one here. Okay, guys, what do you think? Now, I'm not giving you any clue here. I'm not going to give you the idea is in the sentence. So you need to read the whole sentence to have an idea whether you're talking about a possibility, probability, or certainty. So read the whole sentence, think about it carefully, and then you need to choose one of the modal verbs that we've looked at today. So this is the sentence: John have gone to the shops, but I'm not sure. So to know what you need to use here, you need to think about, okay, what does this mean? I'm not sure. So Alida's gone for might. So she's saying John might have gone to the shops, but I'm not sure. Okay, let's see if you agree with Alida. Does might make sense? Stefano says must, may, or might. Okay, all of them very different. Let's see. John must have gone to the shops, but I'm not sure. Doesn't quite make sense because we've got I'm not sure at the end. And if we're not sure, we're not going to use a modal verb of certainty, such as must. Let's look at may and might. John might have gone to the shops, but I'm not sure. Yes. That works, Stefano. So your first answer of must doesn't work, but your answer of may and might does work. Sandra says could. Let's see. John could have gone to the shops, but I'm not sure. It does work. I think the best one here in terms of how we would normally use it, if we add more context to this, we might go with might. So where's John? John might have gone to the shops, but I'm not sure. What do you think John did? John could have gone to the shops, but I'm not sure. And I think that is a telling difference. So if the question is, where did John go? You could answer, John might have gone to the shops, but I'm not sure. Might following with that type of question makes sense. If the question was, what do you, or let's say, where do you think John went? Then you could answer, John could have gone to the shops, but I'm not sure. So see the difference in the question. With one question, we've got where did John go? In the other one, where do you think John went? When you've got the word think, this is when we can start probably leaning towards using could. Meanwhile, where did John go? Well, this case, we're probably going to go with might. So we're off to a good start. I'll include the question. I think that will help as well. Let's go with the next one. So let's go with what happened to Monica. Okay. What happened to Monica? Well, the man on the bike have stopped, but he wasn't looking where he was going. So let's see. What do you guys think over here? Do you think this is about a possibility? Do you think this is a possibility, probability? Very interesting, these questions. Yes, Sergio, these are the sort of questions whereby you would get when you're trying to think what happened and why did something happen. So this is why this type of language is so important. So do you think this is a possibility or probability, or when it comes to the modal verb? Do you think this is could? Do you think this is should? Do you think this is might? Do you think this is would? What do you guys think? Maybe you think it's a certainty. Maybe you think this is more like won't or must. Let's see what you go for. So what happened to Monica? Well, the man was on the bike. Well, the man was on the bike and, sorry, I'm missing and from there. That should be and. I'll just write that again. I just realized I'm missing and. That's a bad mistake. And. Well, the man was on the bike and have stopped, but he wasn't looking where he was going. So you need to think, do you think an accident has happened here? Was Monica hit by the man on the bike, or did the man on the bike not hit her? So that's the real question. And once you've decided what the answer to that is, that will probably tell you what type of modal verb you need to go for. Sergio's gone for should. Okay, well done, Sergio. Alida's joined you with should as well. And I can say maybe someone else will come in, maybe to confirm your answers, but I can tell you this, that is the correct answer. Well done. Should is going to make the most sense here. Stefano says it may have stopped. Let's see. Well, the man on the bike may have stopped, but he wasn't looking. It doesn't quite go. We can't go for a possibility here. This has to be probability. We're saying what is happening here, Stefano, is saying this is why the accident happened. And to avoid the accident, this is what should have happened. So this is should all the way. And this is the only correct answer here. This is should. So, and if Evelina, well done. Should is the correct answer. Nonetheless, thank you very much for your answers. It's all a learning process. So don't worry if you didn't get the last one correct. That's absolutely fine. It's all part of the learning process. Let's look at the next one. Yes, Stefano, may and might are possibilities. So when the option doesn't sound like a possibility, we can't use may or might. We need to then be thinking of either probability, like would or should, or certainty, like must, have to, won't, and can't, for example. Let's see. We've got the next one here. Think carefully. Do you think this is a possibility, probability, or do you think this is talking about a certainty? Something have been a power cut. So there's no power, no electricity. That's a power cut, no electricity, because all the lights in the street are out. Alida's come in with must. So, and Sandra agrees that this is going to be must. Here we have identified what the problem is. Stefano says the cyclist was hit. With the one above, it's not so much the cyclist was hit, it's the fact the cyclist hit a woman, hit Monica in this case. So the cyclist was the one who hit Monica, not the other way around. Monica didn't hit the cyclist. It was the cyclist who hit Monica. Evelina, for this last one, agrees that's must. Yeah, this has to be must. We've identified, okay, it must be this because of all the lights are out. So if all the lights are out, then it must be a power cut. Good, let's go again. So now we're talking about food. It's something have been the fish because everyone else had fish as well. So here we're talking about the situation of maybe food poisoning. Uh, Someone and maybe a person and their friends went out to a restaurant. It sounds like all of them had fish, but one person ended up with food poisoning, a bad stomach. The fish didn't go down well, and they are now sick. So let's see. Sergio's gone with could. It could have been the fish because everyone else had fish as well. Alida says it might have been the fish because everyone else had fish as well. Okay, let me add a little bit more context. I think that's my mistake here. Let me add more the context. Okay. Uh, okay. So let's see what Stefano is saying. I've just added this conversation here. So person A, we're all fine. Are you not feeling well? Person B, no, I have been sick. I think it was the fish. Person A, it have been the fish because everyone else had fish and we are all fine. Sergio's gone for, okay, he went for couldn't, I think, but he's going to change his answer to couldn't. Oh, so maybe he went for could instead of couldn't. Okay. Let's see what other people say. Stefano has written, imagine that the man is telling the police how things had gone. He told the police he did stop, and people asked themselves, well, he may have stopped actually, but he wasn't riding the correct way. In relation to that previous one, yes, that could be like a conversation. Um, but so imagine that the man is telling the police how things had gone. He told the police he did stop, and people asked themselves, well, he may have stopped actually, but he wasn't riding the correct way. Yes, that's exactly what people are saying. So he was riding his bike, but people are saying he wasn't looking where he was going. And so therefore we would say he should have looked, he should have been looking. He should have been looking ahead, for example. So that's why we would use should. For the one underneath regarding this conversation about food poisoning, so all of you so far are agreeing with couldn't. Sergio, you were correct. You did use couldn't, so that's good. Alida couldn't. Sandra couldn't. So it couldn't have been the fish because everyone else had fish and we are all fine. Yeah, couldn't is the correct answer here. You could also go with can't as well. It can't have been the fish. That would also be another option as well. Couldn't or can't could be interchanged here. It depends on how recent the upset stomach is. So if it was last week, then we would use couldn't. But if it's still happening in the process, and the food poisoning is still present, we could also go for can't as well. Good. Well done, guys. So we've got 5 minutes left. I'm going to come out with one more. Let's see what you guys go with. Right. Let's go for this one. This is probably the hardest one. Let's see what you guys go for. Something have been Jack if it wasn't for John. So something happened, some kind of accident. It have been Jack because he was the first one off the plane. To give you a bit of a background, Jack and John are soldiers. Let's say they're soldiers, okay, or policemen. Yeah, let's go with policemen. And one of them was shot. Okay, so let's go with that. So must and can. It must have been Jack if it wasn't for John. It can have been Jack because he was the first one off the plane. No, it does. It's not going to quite work like that. No. Try again. You need to go with probability. Yeah, you need to go with probability. So this is something like a movie action. So you need to think of probability here. That's a clue. So it have been Jack if it wasn't for John. It in Jack because he was the first one off the plane. Stefano says it mustn't have been the fish. Okay, right. With the previous one, it mustn't have been the fish because everyone else had fish and we're all fine. It mustn't have been the fish. You could get away with that one. I would personally go with can't or couldn't, but to go with it mustn't have been. It's not one I was thinking of, to be honest, but when I think about it, you could get away with it. So, Stefano, I'm going to give you a pass on that one. I'm going to say yes. You can get away with mustn't in this case. Alida has gone with would and should. So it would have been Jack if it wasn't for John. It should have been Jack because he was the first one off the plane. Sergio's gone with it may have been Jack if it wasn't for John. It should have been Jack because he was the first one off the plane. Okay, two different answers. It changes things a little bit. I would say the one that definitely makes the most sense when you first think about it is a leader's answer with would, because there's a hypothetical situation there. However, to say it may have been Jack if it wasn't for John is not necessarily wrong in a different context. We haven't looked at that today in terms of mixing a possibility and a probability within the same sentence. We didn't look at that one today, but in certain contexts, Sergio, you could be correct. So I'm going to give you a pass on that one. So well done. And Alida, well done. Would and should. That was the answer I myself was thinking of. Okay, guys. So really well done. Modal verbs of deduction can be really difficult. Like I said, you've got to have your modal verb, and then typically speaking, you're going to go with your present perfect. Now, that is only one type of modal verb of deduction. There are other types of modal verbs of deduction, grammatical sentences that we can look at, but that's a really good one. Stefano's gone with it mustn't or it must. So it mustn't have been Jack if it wasn't for John. It must have been Jack. In this case, not so much. I wouldn't go with certainty necessarily with mustn't and must twice. It mustn't have been Jack if it no. With the second part, it must have been Jack because he was the first one off the plane. If we take it into a different context, you could go with must. It's not going to work in this context. So in this context, Stefano, really good effort, but we can't use must or mustn't in this particular context. We're going to need to try and just go for probability, not certainty, which is why the answer is going to be something like would and should. Okay, guys. So thank you so much. This isn't easy. We can definitely look at modal verbs of deduction again in the near future. Please join me tomorrow at 4 o'clock again when I am going to look at transitive and intransitive verbs with you. So stay tuned for that. Join me tomorrow at 4 o'clock. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe and make sure you share the video. If you watch this later, the same please. If you've enjoyed today's lesson, please like and share as well. Alida, thank you very much. See you tomorrow as well. So big thank you to Alida, Stefano, Sergio, Sandra, Evelina, Arena F. I think I mentioned everyone who participated in today's lesson. So thank you very much. Sergio, yes, thank you. Definitely. Evelina, you too. See you tomorrow. And Arena, you're welcome. Okay, guys. So thank you so much, everyone. See you guys tomorrow at the same time, 4 o'clock. And don't forget, if you want to find out how you can come to Malta to have lessons at AM Language, don't forget, you can always click on the description below any of our live lessons, and you will always see the link to our website and to our other social media platforms. Sandra, you're welcome as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye for now. See you tomorrow at 4 o'clock.